19. I go to school in Rochester, New York, and something today that I'm excited about. I get to go see a group of my friends later for dinner, and it's really simple, but I love having a little chat with them and just debriefing the whole day.
So fun. Where do you currently go to college?
I go to Rochester Institute of Technology.
Nice. So, what exactly are you planning on doing with that?
Yeah, so I'm a student of the NTID College, which is National Technology Institute for the Deaf, because I'm an ASL and ASL English interpreting major. Um, so it's super cool. I study different interpreting skills and language skills. So to eventually become an interpreter as my career. I'm also a French double major, so I'm just really into communication and yeah, just like accessibility with communication.
Very cool. That's so like unique, like ASL, French. Like, do you know any other languages or?
No, it just yeah, English my first language, and then I started learning ASL and French. But
That's
those are the
cool.
ones. Yep.
Do you feel like, because I know French is a super complex language, um, which one do you feel like is harder to learn?
That is a difficult question. I would say ASL definitely uses a different sort of skill set because it's such a visual language.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely has its own grammatical structures and obviously vocabulary and cultural background, which
Mhm.
does make it pretty complicated to get spatially like set up the different space around you, which just isn't a skill that you use every day with spoken language. But the French pronunciation and listening comprehension is really difficult sometimes, I have to say. So about the same, but in different ways.
Very cool. Very,
Yeah.
very cool. Okay, so outside of like your academics and like obviously like hanging out with your friends, things like that, you live in such a fun city. What do you feel like is something you really enjoy doing outside of your obligations?
Ooh, yeah. I like to do a lot of creative things, so I'm always kind of exploring to try to find materials to make stuff with. So I love thrifting and like upcycling clothing. There's a lot of really good thrift stores that are right by my school, which is really nice. And then downtown there's a flea market, which goes. It's actually inside right now, but because it's so cold here. But there's tons of really cool stuff to go look around, like antique things. And the snow is super pretty right now. It's besides being freezing when it's like on a milder day, it's so great to like go outside and go sledding or just kind of exploring. There's some like woods around, so I love doing that. Yeah.
So fun. Ugh, what I would do. Have you always lived in New York?
No, I'm from Bellingham, Washington.
Okay, nice.
Um, yeah, so usually like a West Coast kind of person, so wasn't
Yeah,
familiar with the region at all.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the West Coast misses you. It's very sunny out here today.
Yeah, I was imagining in San
Yeah.
Diego it'd be very sunny.
Yeah, but it's okay. You snow or sun, honestly, either one is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay, so you have kind of shared with me like your what you're studying, where you go to school, your major. What do you feel like is an accomplishment or like a personal project that you have worked on or are either currently working on that you're really proud of working on and why?
Um, I did a lot of student leadership in high school that I was like it was one of my biggest passions getting to get involved with like student government and connecting with the community in that way. So I was kind of worried that when I got here, I would not have like maybe all the same opportunities because I'd be maybe like uncomfortable or awkward at first. But I'm proud of myself that I've been able to continue having like leadership connections here. Um, with the a lot of my friends are in the honors program. I'm doing honors here, and there's a lot of volunteer opportunities that are really great. And um, one that I'm doing right now is working on a research project with NTID to study Robert Panera, who founded like the theater here at NTID. He was a deaf man who was super into literature and poetry and theater. So it's really fascinating because all of those things are like my passions too. I love writing, so I've been looking in the archives recently and getting involved with that, and I just think it's super cool to make connections in the community and then also work with other student leaders. So,
Yeah, very, very cool. And it like ties in like what you're studying, all the things that you love. That's a fun like catch, you know?
mhm.
Um, okay, so obviously everyone has a different definition to this word, but to you, when you think of the word education, what would be the definition that you give me?
It's hard to think of one definition when it encompasses so much, but I guess the main thing when I think of with education is the it's the journey you get to explore as many different pathways and like I guess I'm sort of imagining more of an image than a definition, but it's might be cliche, but like I'm thinking of like sort of a trail. Like education is a journey, but you don't really have to stick to it at all, and that's what I love. You get to go any way you want to grasp learning opportunities, and it's just continual learning that I don't think stops in a year, like in 4 years or 8 years or whatever. It's really like a lifelong concept, a lifelong definition, I think, for education.
Yeah.
And that's just seizing as many learning opportunities as possible and not being afraid to take risks with it. Sorry, that's not really a clear definition, but that's sort of the image
No,
I have.
yeah, no, it's a perfect like representation of what you feel like education means. So, do you feel like there's a topic or a skill that should be taught in majority of like schools or like either high school, college that isn't that you wish was taught or that at least you wish you learned?
Hmm. I think I wish it was more sort of normalized to have like an open class period to pursue like personal projects or like passion projects, which I know there's a lot of different programs like that in many high schools. I mean, I had my leadership class, which I already talked about a little bit, but I think it's so great when there's teachers or mentors that are like simply there just for like your questions or support or to like go over plans with you. Because oftentimes, like, I don't know, a lot of people I know you have gotten here to college and they want to do some of their hobbies and pursue things, but feel really burdened by like some of the structural systems. So I think it's just great, like thinking back about all of my mentors I've had to get like class time to make an outline for myself of something I'm interested in and just get like dedicated, concentrated time with mentorship towards that.
Yeah, perfect. Um, Tell me about someone that you feel like has left a big impact on your life and why.
Okay, the first person that came to mind is one of my mentors actually, was my seventh grade English teacher. Um, Shout out to Joel Gilman. He he's been working at he was working at my middle school for like many years. He still works there, but he really like his biggest thing that he'd always say is like tap into yourself and don't be afraid of failure. And so he literally like motivated me so much that after that seventh grade year, I wanted to write a novel. Like I spent every day of summer writing. I got like a significant chunk of it down, and I still like write every day. And he just like really broke down barriers that usually middle schoolers I feel like would never break.
Yeah.
And I think that was also something that fueled my passion to like have less boundaries in communication in general with languages and everything. It was just so great to be able to have like a really safe place to read my own work and hear other people's work and just have discussion that felt like no pressure or expectations. Yeah, he was a really, really great man.
Yeah. Do you still keep in touch with him or like at all?
Yeah, I like to see him. Sometimes when I'm back at my hometown, I visit the school and say hi. And he usually gives me like some books to read. And then if I write and I want some feedback, I can always email him, which is great.
Oh, that's so sweet that you still kind of have like that mentor
Mhm.
figure. Yeah, that's great. Um, do you feel like there's a cause or like a social issue that you're really passionate about?
I'm I really love working on projects that sort of help communities that, I guess how do I put this? Well, I mean, I've worked a lot with like disability rights, working with communities of people with different disabilities. In high school, there's a lot of people with like cognitive disabilities,
Yeah.
and it was great. I worked at like a community center called the Max Higby Center in my town, where it's just like a recreation center, but pretty much forms communicate or connections that are long lasting in the community. But I think overall, there's a lot of specific like human rights issues. I gravitate towards human connection. I love other things like the environment too, but I love different pathways with human connection. Also, in my town, I worked with migrant workers, which I thought was just really like fascinating to hear their life experiences that aren't always talked about, like from their own testimonies and everything. And I think maybe people shy away from some things that feel like really complicated and like an overall system that is like too hard to control. But there's a lot of different groups and cultures in every city that you can just like meet a group of people and they can share their life experience. So yeah, I like a lot of human rights
Yeah.
working with that and meeting people.
Yeah, it's good to not have like, I mean it's good to have a niche, but it's also good to be able to like, diversify yourself and help, different aspects. So that's great that you like to dip your toes in multiple different like causes. Um, do you feel like there has been like a significant challenge in your life that you've kind of had to overcome or that has shaped you to who you are today? It doesn't have to be necessarily one or like maybe like a compilation of a few that mesh together.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of people experience like broken families, like divorce and everything. So I guess just to add to that, I would say that probably my family situation was something that shaped me. It's kind of, I guess, unique in the sense that I really love both my parents and I have a younger sister and she's like my best friend. But there was definitely like some tumultuous like family situations that led to the divorce when I was 10. And I always thought of it as sort of an like a lot of unfortunate results that happen, a lot of stress because my like parents do not interact at all. They like have no contact, so I was always like this middleman uh, between everything. Like even if it was weirdly like definitely not for a kid to be like organizing, which I know like it wasn't their fault. But I think it actually gave me like in the long run a lot of communication skills that I have today.
Yeah.
I feel like it also just showed me more of like the purpose of what I was supposed to be doing. It was
Yeah.
definitely a lot of hard times though, just because also my family was pretty poor growing up, especially, and we still have like financial struggles. So there's different stresses that are always kind of coming at me from different directions, but it's also taught me so much, which I'm really thankful for because without like I wouldn't have known how to do any of these things. So.
Yeah. It's obviously, yeah, upsetting in the moment, but then you grow up and you're like, life is all about perspective. Let me have a positive one.
Mhm.
But that's great that you kind of were able to turn that around for yourself and like find your goals from it, which is a
Yeah.
great thing. Yeah. Um, do you have any in terms of like what do you mind me asking when like at what age did you have to deal with all of this?
Yeah. The divorce happened in when I was 10, so like
Okay.
2016. I don't know. Yeah, when I was
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
was
Pretty
10, in like fourth grade, somewhere before fifth grade.
yeah.
Um, but there was a lot of like fighting and issues that were leading up to it the couple years before. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you wish, if you could like have kind of gone back in time and had someone give you a piece of advice that would help you through the situation, what would you have really liked to hear?
I would have loved to hear that like down the line there would be a time where it being in awkward situations would not really matter as much as thinking it was. Like every time I'd go to a social gathering, I would be like, are my parents like, is there like tension? Is there like, am I going to be judged or like looked at weird because of this? Is there going to be like fighting or something? When really they would go to social things to like support me and my sister. And at the end of the day, even if it was super awkward, it really didn't matter. And now I think I still struggle with it, but it's so much more of like I can get through it and I'm not in my head.
Yeah.
But back in the day, like I did not think that would ever happen. Like I never wanted to ever go to like events or anything really. So I would have loved to hear that there would be a time where I was just overthinking everything and I didn't need to do that.
Yeah, no, that's a great piece of advice. It's a shame when things like that happen with our parents because it's like you want to blame them so bad and you want to like have a negative like attitude towards them, but then you grow up and you think like, wait, it's their first time living just like it's my first time living, so it's like it's it's so hard to kind of have that inner conflict with yourself. Um, but obviously like, you handled it very great. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, I kind of want to open up the space for you to like share whatever you want to talk about in terms of like enhancing your application, or like talking about something in further detail that you spoke about. So take your time, think about it, and then and let me know.
I think a lot of sort of my identity I feel like has been tied to my education, and I'm really grateful for that. Like I'm so grateful that I've been able to pursue scholarships before this that have been able to like fund me getting to where I am. So I was trying to think of other things that sort of are not my identity related to education, but honestly I think a lot of like I do have a lot of intersectionality that sort of intertwines, which is I'm like yeah it's a great thing for sure. I think with the education pathway, I guess I just really like to emphasize that I love involvement in things, and I think that's why I've wanted to pursue stuff because I just, at the end of the day, just like really want to participate in as much as possible. And it's great here on campus because with like the deaf community, there's, I mean, besides Washington, D.C., there's the second biggest deaf community in the country here. And it's such a beautiful culture to be able to witness like a group of people and a lifestyle with like a shared history that actually makes like deafness and ethnicity like technically, which is super fascinating. But I've just been so thankful that I got to experience that and make connections with that here. So that's also like a main motivation for why I'm pursuing being an interpreter. I mean, of course, it's like a needed service, and we need awareness of that. But I think it's also really important that we have awareness in our society of deaf culture. Even there's a lot of rural areas where there's probably people who've like never met a deaf person or hard of hearing person. But I think it's just important to continue to like follow smaller groups in our American culture that make it who we are. And I like noticed that in my own life too because I feel like there was different cultural values that came together to form like who I am. Just growing up in a pretty like liberal town that always felt there was so much like wealth around me and I didn't always like I wasn't experiencing that and I would be very like confused sometimes and um I guess like then in my own personal life I'd be just questioning things and seeing also hardships though like in my downtown like inner city area and I'm just it was always just like really conflicting.
Yeah.
um so I guess every day and like throughout the years I've always been trying to continue to like understand what my identity is and how other people can like own their own identity.
Mhm.
um yeah, because I also like a lot of my family's conservative and I've had like grown up in church, so there's always just been so many different perspectives around me and I think that also just speaks to how on a great like bigger scale we can be thinking about different perspectives in general. um yeah, that sums up like a lot of my interests on like a greater overarching definition of that, I guess.
Do you feel like as you kind of get older, your identity slowly changes into something different, or do you feel like for a good portion of your life right now, it's stayed the same, or like stayed consistent in what you want for yourself?
Yeah, I like to think a lot about through lines. I'd say a lot of me has changed, but there's definitely been some through lines that I didn't always notice until actually I had another writing teacher a couple years or last year who talked a lot about in my writing having like a through line. I didn't really know what that meant, but then I thought about with my own life and like there's character traits that have connected who I am since I've been a kid to now, and I think that's helped me even when I do change come back and like center myself and my morals and my values.
Yeah.
And especially again back to my sister, like she's a big part of who I am because I mean, like any sibling relationship, you have to navigate different things. But it's so great watching her get to pursue her own like unique passions and learn from that. And I think that taught me a lot of patience, which is one of those through line characteristics that is really important to hold on to, especially with the work I want to do, and just having patience and grace with myself if I make mistakes. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful. I had a just question for myself.
Yeah.
Um, is there a reason that there's like a larger deaf population where you are in like in your hometown, Washington?
Um, or I guess there's not yeah, so there's more people in Rochester because there's just like a long lasting history here. There was actually I mean there's a well known school for the deaf here. And there was a full on like Rochester method of signing back when there was a lot of autism, like oppression for deaf people,
Okay.
where people would literally fingerspell everything because they could conceal it more, which is a really like
Oh my gosh.
really sad history to think about. But that was the case, and so there's actually a method of sign that came from here. So it's just a historically like a hub for deaf people. Also because of NTID, a lot of college students could come here and have a safe space.
Yeah.
But back at home, there's not nearly as big of a deaf population in my city, but there is a big deaf-blind population in Seattle, which is super cool that
Oh, okay.
there's like they use pro-tactile sign a lot of the time, which is like cool because there's a lot of different touching elements. It's like based off sense of touch. So I'd love to learn more about that too. I'd actually be really interested in being a deaf-blind interpreter, maybe moving to Seattle or something.
Yeah, very cool. It's really great that like there's so many like different like programs in different like parts of the country that people can, you know, kind of spread around to and not just be limited to one. It was your choice for your college now because of like the program and like the history of it. Was it like your first choice?
Yeah, I took a risk because, like I said before, I've been sort of like taught and encouraged to take risks, and I like doing it for my education. So I was like, I'm only gonna apply here. It's the like I'm gonna try and push myself and try to get into the best program for interpreting. And I made this giant resume. I like definitely spent well, not too many hours. I was proud that I spent so many hours working on my application. Like I worked very hard, and then I that's where I went. So yeah, it was the only place I applied to. I really loved the program. I still love the program. It's great.
Amazing. Do you have anything else you want to share?
Well, I guess on a little bit of a side note tangent, with all the languagey stuff that I love so much, I also love musicy stuff.
Oh,
And I think the music and arts are also, well, especially music is, I know people are considered like the universal language, because it can really be like experienced on so many different, from a spectrum of ways, by so many different people. Um, so I love doing that, and I also love art, which I guess isn't considered a universal language, but I think people can experience so much joy from that too.
amazing.
Um, but I've been learning how to play the banjitar recently, which is pretty much just a banjo with six strings. And it has been a big challenge because my primary instrument is a bassoon,
Okay.
which is just, I don't know, it's so, yeah, such like a random woodwind, and then playing a banjo is way different, but I definitely recommend, I don't know, I'm just like listening to more banjo music, so recommend more banjo music, I guess. But yeah, I'm really grateful for music, and I love when programs let it be shared more with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fun. Are you in like any like not necessarily bands, but like clubs that like kind of focus more on
Yes.
music?
I do primarily the Rochester or the RIT Philharmonic Orchestra,
Oh wow.
which is so fun. It's such a talented group of people. Like the string players, especially, like blow my mind all the time. Um, but yeah, it's great. I love playing in it because it's also nice to be like a part of something bigger. When I play solo, it's like stressful, but we play just a crazy like range of repertoire, so it's just great. And none of them are not like none of us are non-music major. We're all non-music majors. That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so it's like so many different interests coming together, which is great.
Yeah, it's like you guys are like outside of your obligations. It's like your hobby
Yeah.
that you all just get to share. So that's really fun. Um, but yeah, Adria, it was my pleasure speaking to you. I had so much fun. I hope this was a comfortable experience for you. I know sometimes it can get a little like you know, people get kind of anxious when it's like I'm talking to a stranger virtually. I don't know this person, but I hope I made it as comfortable as possible, and that you actually enjoyed it.
No, it was super comfortable. Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Hey YouTube! If you enjoyed this person's story, don't forget to subscribe below to hear more from our inspiring youth. If you want to apply for our Storyteller Scholarship or get more involved in our organization, click the link below to apply. Thanks for watching!